If you feel like your paycheck disappears faster than it used to, if buying a home feels almost impossible, if stability now feels fragile instead of guaranteed, you're not imagining it. Across the United States, across the United Kingdom, across much of Europe, the middle class is shrinking. Not collapsing in one dramatic crash, but slowly, structurally, and persistently. And the reason is bigger than most people realize. For decades, the middle class followed a reliable formula. Study hard, earn a degree, get a stable job, buy a home, raise a family, retire comfortably. This wasn't a fantasy. It worked. From the 1950s through the early 2000s, wages generally rose alongside productivity. Manufacturing provided stable income. Corporate loyalty was rewarded. Housing was accessible relative to income. In 1980, the average home in the United States cost roughly 3 times the median salary. Today, in many metropolitan areas, that ratio is 7 to 10 times. In London, it can exceed 10 times median income. In cities like Toronto or Sydney, similar patterns exist. That change alone transforms the foundation of middle-class life, because home ownership is not just shelter, it is leverage, it is long-term appreciation, it is generational wealth transfer. When fewer people can access ownership, wealth accumulation slows dramatically, and when wealth slows, stability weakens. But housing is only one layer. Let's talk about wages and inflation. Yes, wages have increased over time, but essential expenses have increased faster. Healthcare in the U.S. has outpaced wage growth for decades. Higher education costs have multiplied far beyond inflation. Energy prices in Europe have fluctuated dramatically in recent years. Food costs have risen globally. Insurance premiums continue climbing. If your income grows 30% over 15 years, but your essential living costs grow 70%, you are technically better off, but practically more constrained. That gap creates pressure, and pressure compounds over time. Most people don't calculate it, they just feel it. Now add debt to this environment. In the United States, student loan debt exceeds $1.7 trillion. Credit card interest rates have reached historic highs. Auto loans stretch 6 or 7 years. In parts of Europe, mortgage burdens have grown heavier as interest rates rise. Debt allows families to maintain lifestyle standards, but it also increases fragility. A household with high leverage cannot absorb shocks easily. When layoffs occur, when interest rates spike, when inflation surges, debt amplifies the stress. The middle class once built wealth primarily through income and property. Now, many are maintaining consumption through credit. That shift changes resilience. Another powerful force is technology. Automation once replaced repetitive factory labor. Today, artificial intelligence replaces cognitive tasks. Customer service agents, administrative roles, entry-level analysts, basic programming tasks. Even creative roles face competition from automation. This creates a polarized labor market. Highly specialized, highly compensated roles remain strong. Low-wage service roles remain necessary. But middle-income, stable, repeatable jobs shrink. That hollowing effect directly compresses the traditional middle class. Globalization compounds the pressure. Companies now operate in a global talent marketplace. A firm in New York can hire skilled professionals in Eastern Europe. A European company can outsource technical work abroad. This increases corporate efficiency and shareholder returns, but it also increases wage competition for middle-skilled workers. The middle-income worker in developed nations now competes globally. This shifts bargaining power away from labor and toward capital. Monetary policy also plays a critical role. After the 2008 financial crisis, governments injected massive liquidity into financial systems. After the pandemic, even more stimulus entered the economy. Interest rates remained historically low for years. Asset prices responded dramatically. Stock markets surged. Real estate prices accelerated. Venture capital expanded. Asset owners experienced substantial growth, but wage earners experienced modest income increases alongside rising consumer prices.
If you own appreciating assets, you benefit from expansion. If you rely primarily on salary, you feel inflation more than appreciation. This structural difference widens inequality and over time compresses the middle. There is also a demographic dimension. Many European nations face aging populations. The United States faces shifting labor participation patterns. An aging society places strain on pension systems, healthcare infrastructure, and taxation structures. As fewer workers support more retirees, fiscal pressure increases. This can lead to higher taxes, reduced benefits, or both. The middle class often absorbs that adjustment. There is also a psychological shift underway. For decades, Western societies were built around the expectation of upward mobility. Each generation believed it would do better than the last. But today, many young adults face a different reality. Higher housing costs, higher education burdens, more competitive job markets, slower asset entry. When expectations and outcomes diverge, anxiety increases. The middle class represented security. When security feels uncertain, stress becomes widespread. So is the middle class disappearing? Not exactly. It's evolving. The old middle class was job-based. The new middle class is asset-based. Ownership matters more than employment stability. Equity matters more than salary alone. Skill leverage matters than tenure. Understanding this shift is essential. So how can the middle class adapt? First, prioritize financial education. Understanding inflation, asset classes, interest rates, and risk allocation is no longer optional. Second, pursue ownership wherever possible. Even modest investments in diversified index funds compound significantly over decades. Retirement accounts, equity participation, real estate exposure when feasible. Ownership creates insulation against asset inflation. Third, build high-leverage skills. Skills that are difficult to automate, difficult to outsource, and difficult to replicate retain value. Strategic thinking, leadership, advanced technical expertise, creative problem-solving. Fourth, maintain margin. Avoid excessive lifestyle inflation as income rises. Financial resilience requires surplus. Fifth, think long-term. Compounding works slowly at first, but dramatically over time. Small, consistent progress creates structural advantage. The middle class is not vanishing overnight. It is being reshaped by global forces. The squeeze you feel is not personal failure. It is systemic transformation. But systems can be understood, and understanding creates leverage. The economic rules have changed, but opportunity has not disappeared. It has shifted, and those who recognize the shift early position themselves differently. The question is no longer whether the middle class is shrinking. It is. The real question is, will you adapt to the new structure or remain anchored to the old one?